I'd like to welcome you to this week's report. Today is Thursday, December 14th. Quickly closing on the end of the year here, but the fishing is still good in a lot of areas. Great weather this weekend in the forecast, but after that we're going to have a little bit of a stormy weather. If you've been watching the news, they're talking about rain midweek. The storm doesn't look like it has a ton of wind associated with it, so I don't really think it's going to wipe things out too bad. I don't think there's going to be that much rain. Doesn't sound like it's going to be a big drencher, but good news is the weather the following weekend so far looks good. Kind of a Santa Ana condition, but that's a ways out, so it's kind of hard to predict at this point. But we might have this weekend and next weekend of good fishing before we run into Christmas and New Year's and stuff at the end of the year, and end of rockfish season, a bunch of other stuff. Since we're getting to the time of year here where there's not as much to report on, I'm going to be including some tackle stuff and different little tidbits in my weekly reports here. They're not going to be full dedicated things to any one species or anything like my SoCal Bight Fishing Academy is, but it'll give you a reason to tune in even if you're not fishing. You can check out what's going on and maybe pick up some pointers on tackle techniques, things like that to use next year. But let's get started. Heading up to the Channel Islands. Still good fishing up there for rockfish, and that's pretty much all there is. But the Aloha Spirit ran one of their big lingcod or bus trips the other day, and they loaded up on all nice grade lingcod. And I don't know exactly what the schedule is for those, but if you call their landing up there, they could probably point you in the right direction. Maybe go to their Facebook page or Instagram page and find out. But they're particularly targeting those bigger fish, and they had real good fish in them on this week. Looks like on live bait as well as artificial lures, which is nice to see. They probably got a couple more weeks of that before the rockfish closure shuts them down at the end of December. But yeah, and I mean the rockfish up there in general is good. I know one of the boats out of Santa Barbara, I think it was the Stardust, fished a local half-day trip the other day, and they stayed shallow. They caught nice lingcod, sheephead, and whitefish up there. You can still target those in less than 300 feet of water, but if you want to do that, I'd fish for those first and then go fish deeper, because you're not allowed to have rockfish on the boat if you're in less than within the 50 fathom curve, which I've talked about in the past. It's a arbitrary line the DFG has traced out along the coast and all the islands. So you can look on the DFG website to get the details on that. And you want to make sure you're outside of that if you have rockfish in the boat. Not a lot of coverage down this way. The one standout is the Eldorado out of Long Beach Sport Fishing has been fishing Clemente all week and having good rock fishing. They catch some sheephead and whitefish early, and then go down and catch a little bigger, greater rockfish, nice lingcod, things like that. You know, but it looked great at the island all week. I wish I could have been out there. Speaking of which, my knee is recovered to the point now where I no longer need a cane. I was back to the gym for the first time yesterday in over a month, and feeling good about things. So I may not fish this weekend, but definitely going to squeeze in a trip next weekend if weather permits. I got my niece's birthday this weekend. But yeah, the weather out of Clemente looks great. I'm hoping some of my bass fishing friends are going to make the run out there. Looks like it'd be a great time to go out there. Post or pre-frontal conditions, probably good bass fishing. We're having that storm coming on Sunday night, so might be able to go in there and load up. Same deal along the coast up here. Sand bass, rockfish, stuff like that. I know the New Del Mar out of Marie Del Rey has been running nighttime bass trips with leadhead and squid. My friend Earl McVicker went out. Good to see him get out in the water, and had some nice sand bass the other night. I know the Spitfire up there is doing combo trips for during the day where they're catching, Caligan sand bass and also going out and targeting rockfish deeper later in the trip. And it's always a good option. So if you're thinking about doing that, though, remember bass and shallow stuff first and then rockfish, or you're going to get caught by fishing game and being happy. My friend Bobby Martinez, he's been on a rockfish bender lately. He went out both Saturday and Sunday and loaded up some nice quality Floridas and also big chilies. Those types of rockfish are some of the best eating in my opinion, and all the rockfish that have a smaller mouth. It's weird. You get the ones with the big mouth like a Picacio or a Mexican red, those things, they don't taste so great, but those speckled bank perch, Floridas as we call them, also bank perch, chilies, all those really good eating, and and you could, catch 10 per person of those. So they're, if you get in an area where they're a little bit bigger, especially private boaters, don't sit there and fish 350 to 500 feet with all the sport boats. Go out deep, fish 700, 800 feet. Get yourself an electric reel if you need to, whatever. But go out and find those areas that haven't been hit in 20 years and catch some of those bigger rockfish that are the best eating as well. But, there was some halibut caught all over the place this week. I don't know. They know the Monte Carlo had a big one the other day, and Dana Point, one of their half-day boats, I think they caught 2 legals, like 20-something shorts. I know some were caught in San Diego. I don't know. I don't really track halibut season, but they seem to be biting. I know they're biting at Catalina as well. My friend Mitch on the Blackfish took a break from their holiday cruise, went out there and caught some nice halibut as well as rockfish. But, yeah, if you know about halibut and you want to go catch one, now might be a good time to do it. And if you know about halibut season and you want to make a comment in my YouTube video here, please feel free to clue me in on it. It's never been something I've targeted other than incidentally. Offshore, they're still tuning around. Guys got them over the weekend again, I guess, down by the 43 out at the Cortez and Tanner Banks. There's some fish down the beach as well. Long range boats are getting into them. I saw that... I see this stuff and I can't ever remember who I'm talking about. The boat that owns the owner of the Malahini has a overnight boat as well. I think it's their Horizon, but I'm not 100% sure. But they're going to start running day-and-a-half trips, and I'm sure a bunch of the boats will once they get out of the yard. And there's bluefin in that day-and-a-half range right now. That long-range boats we're seeing on the way back, it sounds like. So you expect, after the beginning of the year, once rockfish closes up here and everything, those boats will start running those colonette trips probably where they fish yellows early on the beach and then either go out and load up on rockfish, or hopefully there's some bluefin around. Saw fish dope just now, and I don't think I'm really spilling the beans here, but there's a good amount of bluefin down in that area where the seiners caught it at the beginning of this year. If you guys follow that, they limited that pretty quickly on their yearly quota within a couple of weeks or so down there, and it looks like those fish are in that same zone. I don't know if the volume's there that was there before. This year is definitely a different year than last year. As we close it out here, who knows what next year is going to be with the El Nino and everything else, but right now it looks like there's likely going to be another bluefin tuna season up here. And I say likely because at some point I have to assume that these things will leave like they left in the past when they were here back in the 1800s, early 1900s. They just went somewhere else. That may be this year, that may be 100 years from now, we don't know, because there was nobody fishing for them at the front end of that stretch that they were here. We only knew when they left. And for people that say, oh, they're never going to leave, whatever, say the same thing about albacore or barracuda or migratory sand bass or any of those different things. We don't really understand the longer term cycles. We convince ourselves we do. We say, oh, my whole life I've been doing this. Let's take me, for example. I'm, 50 years old, 52. My whole life growing up, I knew that during El Nino, we would catch yellowtail and there'd be good tuna fishing, yellowfin and stuff like that. Then in 2015 or 16 or whatever, now we're catching wahoo and there's blue marlin up here. And then suddenly there's bluefin that are foaming outside of the kelp line at Dana Point and March and all kinds of weird stuff that anybody that tells you they know what's going to happen tomorrow is fooling themselves. I'll tell you the truth about that. But right now it looks like unless we have a major upset of things, hopefully we have another bluefin tuna season next year. Hopefully this El Nino develops and brings some warm water species up here. I doubt it'll be like the one we had in 2015, but you never know. So yeah, lots of good things to close out the year with here. But like I mentioned, I was going to talk a little bit about tackle. And one of the things that I find myself struggling with as a private boater is how much tackle to bring with me on the boat on any given trip. And I have a ton of rods. I mean, I have, just out of the camera, there's probably 100. I build rods, people give me rods, all this sort of stuff. And they're all great, I love them all, but when you're on the boat, let's say you got 3 guys going to Clemente, you bring more than 3 or 4 rods a person, now suddenly the skiff's pretty crowded. And one of the things I got stuck with the other day was getting to Catalina and seeing some yellows up puddling around and not having a jig stick on the boat to throw at them because I didn't want to overload the boat with tackle. But what was really silly to me at that time, I had my rockfish rig there, and I realized that, you know, you only need one rod to cover multiple applications and technically multiple reels. And, you know, the first one that came to mind was my my Rain Shadow RCLB 80M, which is a graphite composite rod. It's 8 foot. It's a live bait rod, rated for, I think, 20 to 40 pound test. But this rod is a very versatile rod on a skip, especially with Spectre line. Right here I have a Penn Fathom 25 narrow on it, star drag, full of 80 pound braid, probably 60 pound fluorocarbon leader. That is my go-to service iron rod on a skip when I'm fishing for yellows at the islands. If I want to have something tied on where I can cast a jig to yellow, this is a great setup for that. You know, it's not a 9-foot rod. You don't get quite the casting distance. But, you know, if I'm going to fish bass, I plan to fish here, and I'm going to bring a longer rod, a 9-foot or 10-foot rod. But if I just want to have something on standby with a jig tied on, you know, a Tatty 45 or a 4.0 Senior, this is a great setup for that. And, you know, it's got plenty of backbone for fighting a bigger fish and all that. So, you know, I've caught plenty of yellows on an Clementi while fishing bass. You can see the photo here. But this rod isn't just dedicated to that. You know, I can also throw this reel if I see some, you know, let's say 50 or 60 pound bluefin, and I want to throw the Rapala subwalk at them. I can throw it with this rod and reel right here. Problem is, a lot of times we run into situations where we're coming or going to the islands or whatever, and we see bluefin and like, oh crap, these are all 100 pound plus fish. So really all you need to do is bring an additional reel. I had always brought the Penn Fathom 25 narrow 2-speed lever drag, and by the way, I just got the new one, and it is sick. You see this big handle, lots of cranking power, just a great reel. But by having this in a double bag, or in one of the hats on my boat, I could swap out these two reels in a couple of minutes, and now I've got a setup that I can throw a subwalker or any other topwater clear choice popper or something like that to fish, you know, up to 200 pounds. And it's the same thing, 80 pound braid. I think this is 80 pound or 100 pound leader here. The difference is now I've got the 2-speed, and while I lose the cast stability of it for throwing a service iron for yellows, you know, I can make that cast into that foam or hook that bigger fish and kill it very easily on this same rod. We've caught, on this 80M, we've caught bluefin up to, I think the biggest one we did was like 160 or something, but you can very easily land a 200 pound fish on it, no problem. So now, option 3, let's say I go to Clementi or go to Cat or whatever, and I decide, hey, bass fishing was really good and I'm done with them, or it sucks, let's go fish rockfish. Now I have another reel, which is the Penn Squall 20 level wind. And this is a very inexpensive reel. I think it's like 200 bucks. I'll have to look it up. But this reel, filled with 30 pound braid, you can fish rockfish in 700 or 800 feet of water, no problem. So now, instead of having 3 different rods on the boat, or maybe not having one of the rods that I need, by just bringing these 2 extra reels along and stashing them somewhere, now I have 3 different setups that will catch everything from rockfish, calico bass, and yellowtail on the service iron, smaller bluefin tuna up to 200 pounds, and it's only taking up 1 spot in the rod rack. So there's quite a few rods that I have that do double duty, but this is the only one that has multiple reels. So, you know, just something to keep in mind, you know, if you want to invest in something very versatile for your boat, this would be a good setup. And one of the things I mentioned here, this is a custom wrap rod. I don't know if you can see it here, but it is a spiral wrapped, which means the guides start at the top and roll to the bottom like a spinning rod. What that does when you're fighting a fish is it pulls the rod straight down, so you're not fighting the reel as you're turning the handle, so you're not torquing it all this way, which may not matter for a yellowtail, but it may matter for a 200 pound bluefin. And it definitely matters for rockfish at 700 feet while you're cranking up. So you're not doing this thing, you're just winding straight up the whole way. So, you know, there's production rods, CalStar Seeker, they make rods like this that you can just buy off the shelf. But the problem with those is they're mostly going to be maybe a cork grip, or if it has a reel seat, it's not going to be measured to your body. A big key for me is I like to butt of the rod to come to my end of my elbow as I have the reel ready to cast. That's a good way to size your rod. But you know, these type of things, it's not an expensive rod to build. I mean, this is just single wrap. I wrapped it myself, but I mean, it's going to cost you, you know, I'm not going to say how much it's going to cost because I have no idea anymore. I'd say it would probably cost you $150 or so just to have the rod built plus components, and that's just guessing. So I apologize to the rod wrappers if I'm undershooting that. But the advantage you get of using that over a production rod, it may save you $75 or $100 even to get a production rod. The problem is it's not going to be sized to you, and you're not going to get a spiral wrap guide, and it's going to put a lot more work on you. So yeah, that's just something I was thinking about. If there's any other particular tackle things you guys want to hear about, just leave a comment and I'll try and address them in coming videos. So that's about it. I hope you guys all have a great weekend and good luck if you fish.